Hi, welcome back to an episode of the Guys Book Club in the Boys Book Club. Yay! And today, guys, we have an extremely special episode. Guys, today, guys, we're on episode number 352, guys. Can you guess it? 352, guys. So many episodes, guys, and I'm really excited that we reached this huge amount of episode. So, guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're only familiar with the channel, welcome back. My name is Zach, and I'm the host. And on this podcast, guys, we're working together on and speaking and on question skill to stand in front of the camera and to communicate before the camera. And doing so because truly believe that English is the number one tool that each one of us must acquire to be successful in life. And the second tool that is going to help us is not to communicate well for the camera. If you take those two skills and you combine them together, you can to the internet, and you can influence billions of people around the world. So it's time to comment to work on the stuff and just do it, guys. I'm hoping that by showing a few guys my journey, my ups and downs, my success, my failures, the obstacles that I was facing during podcasting 5 extreme per week, and I overcome them, and sharing with you guys my own life lessons and tips that I learned during the process. I inspire the people like you, the gentlemen that are watching the podcast like you, to also do the same, to share videos with the world, share messages with the world. Yeah. And today, guys, we got this little angel, because we got this angel behind me. She came to the podcast and she told me, yo, AK, sometimes I feel it's hard for me to break through my jail. I want to inspire the world. I want to make a difference because of Azir. But you see, I have these dark thoughts and capture me in this environment, and I just want to break through this environment. So I invited to join the podcast and to encourage her to also share a message to the board and inspire the board. And guys, if you want to share to encourage her, also, we can find her on 3, 2, 1, bam. That's right. You can find her on Good Fun. And this is great background happened to Good Fun Bananas on Zanimara on 15th of December 2012. And it's downloaded only 6,741 times. And guys, of course, we like it because we want to show appreciate to the artist with this great background to Nimara. And guys, if you want to download the picture, just need to choose the resolution from here. Press download. Right click on the picture and go to Shmirat on the Shem Libro and save pictures and save pictures in English and type them in the comment below. I want it in all language. Along the community, we can play the game, guess from where I am, and we need to guess from where you are around the world based on your language that you wrote, your name and where you are from. Press on Shmirat on the Shem and save pictures. Choose the one to save it on the computer. Press save and comment just like that. You will get it on your computer. So thank you very much for the artist. Vous made this grand background. Thank you very much for Venimar for sharing this great background with us. And guys, just join the game. It's going to be a really nice game. And today, guys, we'll continue our journey with Influenced by Robert Kennedy, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Kennedy. Really great book, and I learned a lot from each episode. And we finish in the law of social proof. And we learned how to save our life when we are in a situation when when we are get a life in. We learned in the previous episode, we learned some techniques on how to save our lives when we are being in danger and there is a crowd around us. We need to choose one man, one woman, saying you're responsible to step me, because if it's all about the community, people are just ignore because they are looking at other people and see how other people are acting to the situation, and you see that nobody cares because everybody else look at each other and nobody help you. So they say, okay, nobody is helping, which means that the situation is not so bad, so I can move on. But if you are choosing one person and say, I want you to take care of me, then you break the cycle and people are going to help you. And guys, if anyone of you have any suggestions for me to myself for the podcast, or if anyone wants to come to the podcast, be against the podcast, show me somebody inspired about the because we're here. And never got them if in English, because you know my nice guy in English, please leave in the comment section below. Guys, if you want to check out this grand account and the influence the book, and all with the Cialdini, the social media account, you got all the link to the description below, so make sure to like them and learn from them. And of course, guys, if anyone of you have any questions, guys, you're almost welcome, and please do it. If you learn something new from the channel, maybe something that I said or from the book, or maybe you learn your life lesson from somewhere else, that you have your own tips in life that you think that can enrich our life. Please, guys, you're almost welcome to share all your wisdom before the community in the comment section below. Thank you very much for doing this. For one plus, improve safe and enrich our life. Thanks to your wisdom. So thank you very much, guys, in advance. And one thing, guys, before we move to the book, if any one of you, if you enjoy the process, if you learn something new from me or the podcast, if you find the podcast inspiring, please consider to share and support. If you like the video, share the video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, push on application bell, ting, so be notified, ting, only so the extremely exciting episode that come to YouTube, and there's going to be 5 extremely exciting episodes per week. So make sure to do it. Yeah. Make sure to do it, guys. You just want to click from your side, it's really going to have a big impact on me. So thank you very much. Each time that I log into my YouTube channel to upload a video, and I look in sub counts and total views. I guess maybe today we got the privilege to earn some new subscriber to get more views. So guys, thank you very much for doing so. And guys, today is Sunday in 1st of May 2022. And the time now it's 13:55, and guys, just time flies, guys. It's already May. I can't believe it. Almost 1 year and a half of podcasting. Damn, it's a lot. Yeah, almost one and a half year. The time fast, and it's almost exam time, so we need to get ready for that, guys. Today it's Sunday, the 1st of May 2022. It's total subs count of the podcast is we got 2 subscribers to the channel. So shout out to you guys, you're great. And total views is 351 total views of the channel. The episodes that are going to be released today. It's episode number 346. So we are in 6 I think we are 6 episodes in advance or 5. We need to boost it. So we had one time introduction, let's dive right into the book. So Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert B. Cialdini, page 117 to 121. Need was a meet the legend of one of the many submissions on please. Mr. John, please. Mr. John, please. Some boy, yeah. So let's go. Let's do it, guys. Title: Monkey Me, Monkey Do. A bit earlier, we stated that the principle of social proof, like all the weapons of influence, works better under some conditions than under others. We have already explored one of those conditions, uncertainty. Without question, when people are uncertain, they are more likely to use others' actions to decide how they themselves should act. But in addition, there is another important working condition, similarity. The principle of social proof operates most powerfully when we are observing the behavior of people just like us. It is the conduct of such people that gives us the greatest insight into what constitutes correct behavior for ourselves. Therefore, we are more inclined to follow the lead of a similar individual than a dissimilar one. That is why I believe we are seeing an increasing number of average person on the street testimonials on TV those days. Adversities now know that one successful way to sell a product to ordinary viewers who compose the largest potential market is to demonstrate that other ordinary people like and use it. So whether the product is a brand of soft drink, or a pen reliever, or a laundry detergent, being volleys of praise from John or Mary, every person. More compelling evidence for the importance of similarity in determining whether we will initiate another's behaviors comes from scientific research. An especially apt illustration can be found in a study done some years ago by Columbia University psychologist. The researchers placed wallets on the ground in various locations around Midtown Manhattan to observe what would happen when they were found. The wallets all contained $2 in cash and in $2 in cash, $26.30 check, and various information providing the name and address of the wallet's owner. In addition to this material, the wallet also contained letters that made it evident that the wallet had been lost, not once, but twice. The letter was written to the wallet's owner from a man who had found it earlier and whose intention was to return it. The finder indicated in his letter that he was happy to help, and that the chance to be of service in this way had made him feel good. It was evident to anyone who found one of those wallets that this well-intentioned individual had then lost the wallet himself on the way to the mailbox. The wallet was wrapped in an envelope addressed to the owner. The researchers wanted to know how many people in finding such a wallet would follow the lead of the first finder and mail it intact to the original owner. Before they dropped the wallets, however, the researchers varied one feature of the letter. One feature of the letter it contained. Some of the letters were written in standard English by what seemed to be an average American, while the other letters were written in broken English by the first finder, who identified himself as a recently arrived foreigner. In other words, the person who had initially found the wallet and had tried to return it was deceived by the letters being either similar or dissimilar to most Americans. The interesting question was whether the Manhattanists who found the wallet and the letter would be more influenced to mail the wallet if the first man who had tried to do so was similar to them. The answer was plain. Only 33% of the wallets were returned when the first finder was seen as dissimilar, but fully 70% were returned when he was thought to be a similar other. Those results suggest an important qualification of the principle of social proof. We will use the actions of others to decide on a proper behavior for ourselves, especially when we view those others as similar to ourselves. This tendency, once again, we will use the action of others to decide on proper behavior for ourselves, especially when we view those others as similar to ourselves. This tendency applies not only to adults, but to children as well. Health researchers have found, for example, that a school-based anti-smoking program had lasting effects only when it used same-age peer leaders as teachers. Another study found that children who saw a film depicting a child's positive visit to the dentist lowered their own dental anxieties, principally when they were the same age as the child in the film. I wish I had known about this second study when a few years before it was published. I was trying to reduce a different kind of anxiety in my son, Chris. I live in Arizona, where backyard swimming pools abound. One regrettable consequences is that every year several young children drown after falling into an untended pool. I was determined, therefore, to teach Chris how to swim at an early age. The problem was not that he was afraid of the water. He loved it, but he would not get into the pool without wearing his inflatable plastic inner tub, no matter how I tried to coax, talk, or shame him about it. After getting Nobel for 2 months, I hired some help. A graduate student of mine, a big, strapping former lifeguard who had once worked as a swimming instructor. He felt totally aside. He couldn't persuade Chris to attempt even a stroke outside of his plastic ring. Around this time, Chris was attending a day camp that provided a number of activities to its members, including use of a large pool, which he scrupulously avoided. One day, shortly after the graduate student fiasco, I went to get Chris from a camp a bit early and with mouth gaped, with mouth edged, agap, AGAPE. Watched him run down the diving board and jump into the middle of the deepest part of the pool. Panicking, I began pulling off my shoes to jump in to his rescue. When I saw him bob to the surface and paddle safely to the side of the pool, where I danced, shoes in hand, to meet him. Chris, you can swim, I said excitedly. You can swim. Yes, he responded casually. I learned how today. This is terrific. This is just terrific. I bumbled, gasping expensively to convey my enthusiasm. But how come you didn't need your plastic ring today? Looking somewhat embarrassed because his father seemed to be having wild inexplicably, inexplicably, soaking his socks in a small puddle and waving his shoes around. Chris explained, well, I'm 3 years old, and Tommy is 3 years old, and Tommy can swim without a ring, so that means I can. So that means I can too. I could have kicked myself. Of course, it would be to little Tommy, not to a 6'2" guard graduated student that Chris would look for the most relevant information about what he could or should do. Had I been more thoughtful about solving Chris's swimming problem, I could have employed Tommy's good example earlier and, perhaps, have saved myself a couple of frustrating months. I could have simply noted at the day camp that Tommy was a swimmer and then arranged with his parents for the boys to spend a weekend afternoon swimming in our pool. My guess is that Chris's plastic ring would have been abandoned by the end of the day. Any factor that can spur 70% of New Yorkers to return a wallet or can reduce the likelihood that kids will take up smoking or will fear a dentist visit must be considered impressive. Yet research findings of this sort offer just a hint of the immense impact that the conduct of similar others has on human behavior. Other, more powerful examples exist. To my mind, the most telling illustration of this impact starts with a seemingly non-essential statistic. After a suicide had made front page news, airplanes, private planes, corporate jets, airlines began falling out of the sky at an alarming rate. For example, it has been shown that immediately following certain kinds of highly publicized suicide stories, the number of people who die in commercial airline crashes increases by 1,000%. Damn. Even more alarming. The increase is not limited to airplane deaths. The number of automobile fatalities shoots up as well. What could possibly be responsible? One explanation suggests itself immediately. The same social conditions that cause some people to commit suicide cause others to die accidentally. For instance, certain individuals, the suicide prone may react to stressful societal events, economic downturns, rising crime rates, international tensions, bending it all. But others will react differently to those same events. They might become angry or impatient or nervous or distracted to the degree that Such people operate on service the cars and planes of our society. The vehicle will be less safe, and consequently, we will see a sharp increase in the number of automobiles and their fatalities. According to these social conditions, interpretation, then some of the same societal SOICETAL factors that cause intentional deaths also cause accidental ones. And that is why we find so strong a connection between suicide stories and fatal crashes. But another fascinating statistic indicates that this is not the correct explanation. Fatal crashes increase dramatically only in those regions where the suicide has been highly publicized. Other places, existing under similar social conditions, but the newspapers have not publicized the story, have shown no comparable jump in such fatalities. Furthermore, within those areas where newspaper space has been allotted, the wider the publicity given the suicide, the greater has been the rise in subsequent crashes. Thus, it is not some set of common social events, societal events that stimulates suicides on the one end and fatal accidents on the other. Instead, it is a publicized suicide story itself that produces the car and the plane wrecks. To explain the strong association between a suicide story publicity and subsequent crashes, a bereavement account has been suggested because it has been argued front page suicides often involve well-known and respected public figures. Perhaps the highly publicized deaths throw many people into states of shocked sadness, stunned and preoccupied. Those individuals become careless around the cars and planes. The consequences is the sharp increase in deadly accidents involving such vehicles that we see after front page suicide stories. Although the bereavement theory can account for the connection between the degree of publicity given a story and subsequent crash fatalities, the more people will learn of the suicide, the larger number of bereavement and careless individuals there will be. It cannot explain yet another startling fact. It cannot explain yet another startling fact. Newspaper stories reporting on suicide victims who died alone produce an increase in the frequency of single fatality wrecks only. Various stories reporting on suicide plus murder incidents produce an increase in multiple fatality wrecked only. Simple bereavement could not cause such a pattern. The influence of suicide stories on car and plane crashes, then, is fantastically specific. Stories of pure suicides in which only one person dies generate wrecks in which only one person dies. Stories of suicide and murder combinations in which there are multiple deaths generate wrecks in which there are multiple deaths. In neither social conditions nor bereavement account for this bewildering array of facts. What can? There is a sociologist at the University of California at San Diego who thinks he has found the answer. His name is David Phillips, and he points a convincing finger at something called the Werther effect. Excuse me. The story of the Werther effect is both chilling and intriguing. More than 2 centuries ago, the great man of German literature, Johann von Goethe, published a novel entitled Die Leiden des Jugend Werthers, the stories of young Werther, the book in which the hero named Werther commits suicide, had a remarkable impact. Not only did it provide Goethe with immediate fame, but it also sparked a wave of emulative suicides, suicides across Europe. So powerful was this effect that authorities in several countries banned the novel. Professor Philip's own work has traced the weather effect to modern times. His research has demonstrated that immediately following a front-page suicide story, the suicide rate increases dramatically in those geographical areas where the story has been highly publicized. It is Philip's argument that certain troubled people worried of another's self-inflicted death, kill themselves in imitation, in a morbid illustration, in a morbid illustration of the principle of social proof. Those people decide how they should act on the basis of how some other troubled person has acted. Phillips got his evidence for the modern day weather effect by examining the suicide statistic in the United States between 1947 and 1968. He found that within 2 months after every front-page suicide story, an average of 58 more people than usual kill themselves. Damn. In a sense, each suicide story killed 58 people who otherwise would have gone on who otherwise would have gone on living. Phillips also found that this tendency for suicides to beggar the suicides occurred principally in those parts of the country where the first suicide was highly publicized, and the wider the publicity given the first suicide, the greater the number of later suicides. If the facts surrounding the weather effect seem to you suspiciously, like those surrounding the influence of suicide stories on air and traffic fatalities, the similarities have not been lost on Professor Philip Caesar. In fact, the contents that all the EXCESS deaths following a front-page suicide incident can be explained as the same thing. Copycat suicides. Upon learning of another suicide, an uncomfortably large number of people decide that suicide is an appropriate action for themselves as well. Some of those individuals then proceed to commit the act in a straightforward, no bones about it fashion, causing the suicide rate to jump. Others, however, are less direct for any of several reasons. To protect their reputations, to spare their families, the shame and don't, to allow their dependents to collect on insurance policies. They do not want to appear to have killed themselves. They would rather seem to have died accidentally. So, possibly, but furtively, FURTIEVELY, the cause a wreck of a car or a plane, they are operating or are simply riding in. This could be accomplished in a variety of all too familiar sounding ways. commercial airplane pilot could dip the nose of the aircraft at a crucial point of takeoff or could inexpressibly inexpressibly land on an already occupied runway against instructions from the control tower. The driver of a car could suddenly swerve into a tree or into oncoming traffic. A passenger in an automobile or corporate jet could incapacitated the operator, causing a deadly crash. The pilot of a private plane could, despite all radio warnings, plow into another aircraft. Those are alarming. Those THUS, the alarming climb in crash fatalities we found the following front page suicides is, according to Dr. Phillips, most likely due to the weather effect secondly applied. Damn, it was intensive, guys. Strong episode, guys, and this is the end of the episode, so guys, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate the fact that you choose to invest to time for me, and I can't wait to see you all guys on tomorrow episode of the Guys Book Pin, the Board Book Club. Until then, guys, take care of yourself for a great time. Have a great day for the Grand Motivation content creator on full-time, your boy AK, and bye-bye. Let's go. So guys, today is Sunday, 1st of May 2022, and the time now is 14:21, and I didn't know that the episode is going to be kind of dark, and so I think the photo of the background man is fit the environment, fit the atmosphere of the episode. So guys, I really wish you the best, and if you're struggling with mental health or something, seek for help, guys. It's not to show me something, just be strong. If you want, you can talk with me in the comment section below, but I really think that you should seek for professional help. And I don't know, maybe if you want, you can check AK Motivation social media account. You got on the link in the description below, and to listen to some motivation tracks that I made. But stay strong, guys. Stay strong, and I want to support you guys. יעלה יום ראשון, הראשון למאי 2022, בשעה 2022, ביי. 2022, שעכשיו יהיה 2:22, אז עוד 8 דקות אנחנו נמצאים להלוויה של גולה ולדינסקי. בחור שאתמול הפיגוע הזה הוא נרצח באריאל, שנשמע הפיגוע נרצח באריאל, סטודנט באריאל. יוצאים להלוויה שלו בבית שמש, אז הולכים לראות תמיכה. כן, נתאמן לי שומע באוזניות את, איך קוראים להם? אידיסון יונייטד, אושנז, דורית רמיקס, שמע את זה ברמיקס, בלופ. כמו שצריך, יאללה, אז חברים, להתראות, צריך להתרגל, להתראות. יאללה, דוני.